好，男孩两小口永远在一块。我祝满天下的小孩聪明，胜过秀才智商充满你脑袋。祝尊敬的姑奶奶三尺六寸的比赛气不喘，面容不改。祝山叔公的买卖声。
On our trip, we had 14 such conversations with high-level government officials, private business executives, foreign journalists, and Chinese state-owned enterprise leaders. And in each, we gained valuable insight that leveraged our education to another level.
I think the Chinese and Latin Americans are all realizing that we have a lot of common interests and we can cooperate both in economic fields and in other political occasions like multilateral institutions.
We will see much more Chinese interest in Latin America, much more investment, much more Chinese investment in Latin America, probably increase of Latin American exports to China, but also an increase in tensions in the basket of goods that are being exported to China versus the goods that are being imported. So there are going to be probably much opportunities, but we will see more WTO cases against China.
Because this relationship is becoming more and more dynamic and more interesting. And as just one student raised a question about the US strategic emphasis, more strategic emphasis on Asia-Pacific region. And I think with this shift, there might be more space for US, China, Latin American cooperation in the future, with bigger Latin American participation in Asia-Pacific region.
你觉不觉得就是比如说世博会的你们的当时使用的这个模式，其他国家可不可以引进？这有没有这个价值？然后他提了巴西的例子，他们快要办那个奥运会。
China's government deciding to invest so intensively in their education system to encourage another generation of scientists and engineers and researchers who will be able to develop the next wave of innovation for domestic innovation. I think that's an incredible lesson that unfortunately Latin America is not doing enough of. Definitely social conditions are changing in Latin America and education is becoming more important. But I think that having engineering, science, technology training to enable domestic developed technology and solutions is one of the best ways to ensure that your country going into the future can be competitive and in a way that is not overly natural resource dependent, so that it has a lower impact on the environment.
I think this group is part of what should happen, right? You should get on the ground in China, see for yourself, interview, meet experts, but also dive in and go outside of the big cities and see how things work and try to find the people who...
Great.
Matt, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us today.
Sure.
You participated in the China trip 3 years ago.
I did.
And we wonder if there's any particular experiences or events that you took from that trip that are especially important to you today.
Probably one of the best memories I had was visiting the Baosteel factory actually learning about how this process happens. Because I think when you're in school and you're reading academic journals and you're reading economics books, a lot of what you're learning about is trends over time that you imagine are just this confluence of individual decisions that get made over a long period of time. But when you go to a place and you actually see how these ties are developing, the interpersonal relationships that they require, the long time the transactions take, and you actually get a chance to see how steel is made in China that uses resources from Latin America, and you sort of see the trends that you study, the practical application of how they actually come together. It was a great experience.
After this trip, investigating the connections between China and Latin America, two things strike me. First, despite their close economic ties, Latin American countries and China do not really understand one another and are unlikely to do so anytime soon. China is too big and too culturally and linguistically different for foreigners to really begin to understand or grasp its internal political dynamics. Conversely, China has so many trade partners around the world that it is impractical for it to focus on the cultural and historic background of any given region. There is a tendency, therefore, to oversimplify what each side wants, down to simply China wants resources and Latin America wants cash. The lack of more nuanced mutual understanding could easily play a role in future trade and investment disputes. The second thing that struck me is that China is swimming in money, and this money is looking abroad for learning opportunities. This will have implications for Latin America. The Chinese businessmen are looking not only to secure natural resources in the medium term, but also long-term investments. These investments are often made quickly without extensive due diligence. When I asked a professor at Peking University what happens when those investments don't pay off, he responded surprisingly. The Chinese investor never loses. When pressed, he explained, even if we don't make money, we are learning something with every experience. Short-term profit is not our only aim, so we never lose. That attitude is going to be formidable on the world stage as China begins to compete with other nations, not only in cheap manufacturing, but also in higher value activities.
This is simply the best educational experience in my academic career, and I'm grateful for having had the opportunity. On behalf of all the students, thank you very much.
I'm coming for you!
这城市的角落，曾经有个女孩，也为爱情执着，多爱曾自己找对错，没有人能左右。许是一种堕落，也许无法解脱，守着爱情的承诺，明知不会有结果，心里明明懂得。
也干了，这份深情难舍难了。From glen to glen and down the mountainside.